Hey everyone, before I start the video I want to thank Lazy Masquerade for collaborating with me on this video. When I first started he was one of the bigger guys in the scary storytelling community and he still is, so it's awesome to finally be able to work with him. If you haven't heard of him, make sure you go check out his channel, he provides really unique and amazing material. Also, make sure you check out the collaboration video we did on his channel for more of these kinds of stories. I'll leave an annotation at the end of this video and a link in the description. Now, on to the stories. This happened to me just a few weeks ago. My parents had gone out of town and left me at home. It was fine for the first few days, playing games, watching TV, you know, normal teen stuff. One day I'm sitting in my room around 7 at night when I hear someone knocking at my door. Normally, my grandmother, who lives just down the road, will come over and check up on me and say goodnight and all that stuff. So, thinking it's her, I go up to let her in. I open my main door and see not my grandmother, but a man. He looked mid-30s and was kinda chubby. He held a clipboard and just stared at me till I said something to him. Hello? I ask in a weirded out voice. Hi, I'm from the furnace company and I'm here to check your furnace. As he said this, he tried forcing me away to let him in. I kept my ground and helped him back. My parents aren't here right now, can you come back later? His eyes lightened up when he found out I was home alone. Just, let me check, okay? I gotta make sure it's all fired up. That's when I checked the van he had. It was an unmarked green van. Normally all companies in my town have a logo, and I mean all of them. I'm not letting you in! My yell somewhat startled him as he stepped back and I was able to get in and lock the outer door, keeping him out. I grabbed my cell phone and called my grandmother and told her what happened. As I told her, the guy ran back to the van and sped off. I'm horrified to think of what would have happened if I never scared him away. Number 2.
I used to live in a really weird area of town, so I have a lot of these kind of experiences. The first one happened when I was in 6th grade. It was in late fall, and I had joined some after-school activities at the new school to make friends. Problem was that I had nobody to pick me up afterwards. I was stuck, walking, and the road home was a long maze of abandoned houses with boarded windows. One of these times, I saw a red car inching behind me, the only car on an otherwise quiet street. The driver was an older, chubby man with a huge smile. He rolls down his window. "Hi, you look like you need a ride." I smiled at him and I said no thanks. He kept following. "Don't be shy. Come on, slow down." I told him I was fine, while looking around to see if anyone else was nearby to see this. He responded with something like, "You still have a long way to go until you get home." I felt a chill of horror as I realized I was alone. How did this man even know where I was going? I started running a bit, and the car kept following me. I could hear him saying things like, "Stop running, don't be scared." He drove up and parked at the end of the road we were on. Adrenaline kicked in, and I ran like my life depended on it. I reached the main roads, and I didn't see the car anymore, but I was terrified he would follow me home somehow, so I hid, and I waited a few minutes. I finally arrived home, shaky from adrenaline and crying. My parents thought that I was lying to get out of trouble, and told me to just take the city bus next time. Needless to say, after that experience, I never walked to school and back again.
Number 3. So, this happened to me today while I was walking up the hill to the park. It was broad daylight with a few construction workers and gardeners around. I stopped to admire the view of the canyon on the sidewalk off of a very busy street. A dark, greenish, gray old Toyota truck drove past me going the opposite way. I turned around when I heard the car brake and make a very sharp illegal U-turn. I watched the truck pull up right beside me. A white man in his 50s with white hair, a white shirt, and a German Shepherd in the passenger seat was inside. The man leaned over and held his hand out of the window towards me. He held out 2 pieces of paper with rainbow-colored stripes and funky white text that said, "Fun Pass," on them. He whistled at me, grinned, and said, "Come here, these are for you." I shook my head and scowled. "Come here," he repeated, and he reached for his glove compartment with the other hand. He looked to be in a hurry, trying to make his encounter with me as brief as possible. Of course, because a man with sick motives wouldn't want to be seen for long. I shook my head again and began backing up, thinking of the other kidnappings in my city in which a guy pulled out a gun once they got close to the car and threatened the girls to get in or he'd shoot them. This was quite possibly the same scenario. My heart raced and I gripped my phone, preparing myself to run and scream for help. The man had an immediate change of plan, as though he realized I knew his intentions. He cursed to himself and hit the gas, doing another U-turn and speeding down the street. I only managed to get a few numbers of the plate, but I called the cops and gave them a description. Number 4.
In grade 5, a friend of mine, Chloe, was messaged on MySpace by our mutual friend, Asher. Asher asked Chloe to meet at the park by Chloe's house. Chloe had baseball practice, so she told her, maybe another day. Asher insisted that today was best, and she really wanted to hang out, even if it was only for 10 minutes. Chloe told her no again, since she was about to eat dinner and then leave. Chloe thought it was strange that Asher was so persistent, as they had never hung out at school, let alone afterwards. The next day, Chloe confronted Asher. "Sorry I couldn't hang out yesterday. I had baseball practice. I'm free tonight if you want." Asher was confused. "What are you talking about?" she asked. "On MySpace, you asked me to hang out last night." Asher then explained that she didn't message Chloe. Creepier yet, she had recently gotten a new account due to spam she was receiving. The scariest part to me is that whoever was sending the messages had referred to the park by its name, which isn't a very common one. A couple of years later, my other friends saw a green van parked on the street the park was on, with a middle-aged man inside that only showed up during soccer games or when there was a lot of kids around, and would leave when the kids left. My friend lived across the street from the park and noticed this from her window frequently. Chloe deleted her MySpace account when she got home.
Number 5. I was 11 years old. I spent the night hanging out with my closest friend at the time. I left around 7 o'clock. She was about a 15 to 20 minute walk away from my house. It was the month of December, so it was icy and dark outside. While I was walking down the long sidewalk, I had to make a turn halfway. Across the turn down the sidewalk, I noticed a man way further down. He was alone at the moment. 10 seconds later, a 4-door car drove up to him. It was a long street till my turn, so I watched him talk to whoever was in the car. It sped off and he just stopped, watching me walk. As I kept walking, all I heard was someone shouting at me, "Hey you, come here!" I freaked the fuck out. I started walking faster and then noticed he started running towards me. I started running for my life. Since the ground was covered in snow and ice, all I literally thought as I was running was, "Please God, don't let me slip. Mom, please help me." I was crying as I was running. He caught up extremely fast. I kept looking back and noticed the car slowly driving behind him. As I ran, I felt his arm reach out and try to grab the hood of my sweatshirt. By God's grace, his hand slipped, and I ran a block trying to find a house with its lights on. I finally found one and banged at the door, almost ready to break it down to get in. This older couple finally answered. I ran inside explaining what happened. The husband then went outside to try to find them, and when we went out, he saw the man standing at the end of the street just staring at him, and then he ran off. My mom called the cops and pulled me out of school for 4 days afterwards. The guy was never found. For a while afterward, I would buy flowers and a card and leave it on the couple's doorstep, thanking them for saving my life. God only knows what would have happened if he got me and dragged me to the car. Number 6.
Just to give you some background information, I'm a 29-year-old female, and this happened to me 4 years ago. My family lived on a farm in rural outback Western Australia, just north of Geraldton, in a modest-looking wooden farmhouse. My son and I lived here alone most of the time, while my husband worked on rotation up north on the mines. We had no neighbours, no mobile phone reception, and very little connection with the outside world, with the exception of the television. There was only one window in the house, situated above my bed in the bedroom. It was a small old wooden framed window with no curtains. However, the window was completely jammed, and as much as I tried to close it, there was about 2 inches of opening near the bottom of the window frame. My husband and I had spent a while trying to oil the hinges and loosen it up the day before he left to go to work again, but we gave up, as it wasn't a huge issue at the time. Fast forward to a couple of nights later. I'm standing in front of the TV, doing the ironing and watching Sex and the City reruns, while my son is asleep in my bed. As I walk up the hallway to enter the laundry to grab another load of washing, I pass my bedroom, and I pop my head in to check on my son. My heart stops. The window frame above my bed is shuffling from side to side. My eyes scan down, and what I see next will never leave my mind again. There were 2 hands squeezing through the gap of the window, trying to lift up the jammed frame. I screamed the house down, grabbed my son, the phone, and locked myself in the bathroom and called the police. I'd hate to think what would have happened if I hadn't been walking past my bedroom at that exact moment. We've since moved from this house not long after this incident occurred. We fixed the window straight away, but I could never seem to shake the feeling off that someone was watching me while I slept, so we packed up ship and moved to Perth for our new life.
Number 7. To give a little context for this story, I was right around 15 and living at my dad's house when this happened. We lived in a quiet neighborhood up in the hills. On the night of this occurrence, it was around midnight. I had just gotten home from a babysitting job for a neighbor that was about 10 minutes away walking distance. On my way home, I hadn't heard anyone except a couple owls. I walked into the house, locked the door, and went downstairs to see if my sister was awake. As I got to the bottom of the stairs, the doorbell rang. I thought, maybe I left something at the house I was at, so quickly I ran back up the stairs. When I answered the door, I was greeted by a man covered in blood. He honestly looked like a zombie in my 15-year-old perspective. His jaw was hanging limp and he was missing at least 7 teeth. His head looked concaved in several spots and one of his eyes was missing. He may have been beaten with a baseball bat. I stepped back in shock as he sputtered the word, "Help," and collapsed on our porch. I ran into my dad's room shaking and told him what happened. He shot upward, called 911 and went to help. By this point, my little brother, who's 6 years old, had woken up and was trying to find out what was going on. I rushed to get them back into the room and get my dad the supplies he needed until the ambulance arrived. Unfortunately, the man was too injured to tell anyone what happened, but he just kept pointing to the top of the next hill. The ambulance took him to the hospital. The man died, John Doe, in the hospital 2 days later. Number 8.
When I was about 4 or 5, I went grocery shopping with my grandma. I noticed she kept looking behind her, and would inexplicably grab my hand and cart me along quickly for what seemed like no reason at all. I didn't question it though. I was just happy to be getting out of there sooner. Around this time, my uncle had recently headed out to fight in Desert Storm. My grandma was behind a display and talking about him. I wandered off to play near a basket of toys or something. Being young and not really understanding where he had gone, I said something along the lines of, "Where's Uncle Mike? I miss Uncle Mike." An older guy with crazy, grey, dark brown hair quickly made his way over to me and bent down to my level. "Are you alone? You know, I have an Uncle Mike as well. Let's go find him." He grabbed my arm and was about to pick me up. My grandma, thank God, was only 2 feet away, but was hidden by the display. She jumped when she heard him speak and immediately scooped me up and away from him.
Number 9. Back in my late teenage years, around junior and senior years of high school, my friends and I enjoyed messing around with people a bit too much. Since we were, quote, fearless teenagers, we decided to use one of our ghillie suits for ding-dong ditching. The way that ghillie suit ding-dong ditching works is someone wearing a ghillie suit would knock on a door and try to hide in plain sight by hiding near plants and stuff like that. And if you don't know what a ghillie suit is, it's just a suit that looks like a bush. Anyways, on to the rest of the story. The night started well as we had done a few houses without any notable incidents. It was finally my turn to wear the ghillie suit, and I chose a seemingly harmless and easy house. So my friends got into position to watch behind a fairly large hidden rock, and I hid in the garden right in front of the house. And the house looked kind of fancy, so I assumed the people that lived there were just passive old people. So I knocked on the door and got in my hiding spot and waited for someone to answer the door. After about a minute, I heard the door open and someone started walking around looking for whoever knocked on their door. Now, this made me nervous, but I wasn't necessarily scared yet. Until my dumbass friend peeked his head out too far and the guy saw him. He yelled for his buddies to get the gun and started running towards my friends and shooting in their direction. Now, at this point, I'm almost shitting myself because this guy was obviously fucking insane and I couldn't just stand up because he'd probably think I was just a robber or something. So, I waited and waited and waited until finally the guy came back and said, "I think I scared him away," and walked back into his house along with his buddy. I waited 10 seconds, then ran like hell all the way back to the corner, took off my ghillie suit and called for my friends. Thankfully, they were fine. But that redneck guy was crazy as fuck. Number 10.
Please note, I'm a 13-year-old female. This happened about 1 week ago. My mum and I went to our local craft store, Michael's, to buy home decor and stuff I needed for a project. My mother trusts me greatly, so she allowed me to go and get what I needed, expecting me to eventually find her somewhere else in the giant store. I needed some felt, so I went to go and get it. That's when the guy walked into the store. He looked stoned as fuck. His beard was matted and greasy, and he was bald. He looked to be between 40 and 50 years old. When I walked past him, my nostrils were met with the single most disgusting smell ever. I tried to get away as fast as possible. Now I was far away enough, and on the aisle that had the stuff I needed. My arms are full of felt, buttons, and styrofoam as I went out to find my mother. I got out of the aisle, and it's that fucking smell again. The guy was standing right behind me. I walked away as fast as I could. I found my mum by the fall decorations, and I put my stuff in the cart. For the next half hour, I helped her pick out certain decorations for our house, all the while feeling like I was being watched. A few minutes after, I told my mum I have to go to the bathroom. I asked an employee, and they say it's in the back right corner. Bad feelings overwhelmed me every step closer. The hallway into the bathroom area was dim. I walked into the ladies' room and went into a stall. The door opened. That smell. Oh fuck, I whispered to myself. Hey kid, wanna come home with me? I pretended like I wasn't there. I hear in the background someone telling the man to get out of the woman's restroom. After, I found my mum, paid for the stuff, and got the fuck into the car. I still haven't told her yet. Only my friends at school.